Ambassador Jin Woo adjusted his formal uniform one last time as the massive doors of the Federation Council chamber slowly opened before him. The sound echoed through the vast hall like thunder rolling across mountains. His footsteps clicked against the polished obsidian floor as he walked toward the center of the chamber, where representatives from dozens of alien civilizations waited. The council chamber itself was a marvel that took his breath away. Towering crystal spires stretched impossibly high, their surfaces pulsing with soft blue light that seemed to respond to the emotions in the room. Floating platforms carried delegates from species he had only seen in classified files. The towering Velthrani with their silver skin that shifted like liquid mercury, the insectoid Zephyrians, whose compound eyes reflected every color of the rainbow, and the massive rock-like Chromach, whose bodies seemed carved from living stone. Ambassador of Earth. Council Prime Velthar's voice filled the chamber without any visible speaking apparatus, the translation matrix converting his thoughts directly into Jin Woo's native Korean before switching to Universal Standard. Step forward and claim your species' place among the stars. Jin Woo's heart hammered against his ribs as he approached the ceremonial podium. Behind him, floating cameras captured every moment for broadcast back to Earth, where billions watched. Their species take its first official step into galactic society. The weight of representing all humanity pressed down on his shoulders like a physical force. The admission treaty materialized before him as a holographic document, its alien script, shifting and changing until it displayed in perfect Korean. As he pressed his palm against the signing surface, the document pulsed with golden light, and cheers erupted from viewing stations across 100 worlds. Your species shows great promise, Velthar continued, his tall form gliding closer. We have observed your rapid technological advancement, your adaptability in crisis situations, and your remarkable capacity for both cooperation and individual achievement. We shall guide you toward enlightenment. Ceremonial gifts began materializing on platforms around Jin Woo, a crystal containing the star maps of 3 sectors, a small fusion reactor that could power a city for a century, and most impressive of all, a neural interface that would allow humans to communicate directly with any Federation species. The technology represented advances that would have taken humanity centuries to develop alone. The Federation welcomes Earth, announced a Zephyrian delegate, her chittering voice accompanied by rapid wing movements that Jin Woo's briefings had taught him meant excitement. Your warriors showed impressive courage during the Void Raider conflicts. Your scientists demonstrated remarkable innovation during the Proxima crisis. You have earned this honor. Meanwhile, 37,000 light-years away, Captain So Young stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery, humanity's newest deep space vessel. The ship hummed with Federation technology, engines that folded space itself, shields that could deflect stellar radiation, and sensors that could detect life signs from orbit. Her crew of 43 represented the best Earth had to offer, hand-picked for humanity's first colonial mission. Captain, we're approaching the Kepler 442 system, reported Navigator Junho from his station. The coordinates provided by the Federation indicate a Class M planet in the habitable zone. Initial scans show breathable atmosphere, abundant water, and suitable gravity. So Young nodded, watching the main view screen as their destination grew larger. The planet looked perfect, swirls of blue oceans, green continents, and white clouds. That reminded her of Earth. After months of travel, her crew was eager to set foot on solid ground again. Begin detailed scans, she ordered. I want to know everything about our new home before we commit to landing. The bridge fell silent except for the soft beeping of instruments as the Discovery's advanced sensors swept across the planet's surface. So Young watched the data stream across her screens, cataloging mineral deposits, weather patterns, and geographical features. Everything looked exactly as the Federation had promised. Then, Science Officer Kyung-soo looked up from his station, with confusion written across his face. Captain, I'm detecting artificial structures on the southern continent. They appear to be settlements of some kind. That's impossible, So Young replied, moving to look over his shoulder at the sensor readings. The Federation assured us this. World was uninhabited. The sensors revealed the truth in stark detail. Scattered across the planet's surface were hundreds of small communities. The inhabitants appeared to be bipedal, roughly humanoid in shape, but with 4 arms and skin that changed color like chameleons. They had developed agriculture, basic architecture, and showed signs of a peaceful society focused on art and philosophy, rather than warfare. "Sir, the Federation gave us occupied coordinates," So Young reported to Admiral Tejo back on Earth through their quantum communication array. Her voice carried a mixture of confusion and growing concern. The response came, back after several long minutes. "Proceed with the mission, Captain. Perhaps it's a test of our resolve. The Federation may want to see how we handle first contact situations." So Young stared at the peaceful alien settlements, visible on her screen. These beings had done nothing wrong, built nothing threatening, created no conflict. They simply existed. On the world the Federation had designated as humanity's first colony. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She was being asked to displace an entire civilization for humanity's expansion. "Sir, respectfully, these people have families. They have children playing in their gardens. They're not blocking our expansion, they're just living their lives." But the orders remained unchanged. As So Young watched the alien children play in alien sunshine, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly, horribly wrong with humanity's welcome into galactic society. Minho rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the rows of glowing monitors surrounding his workstation deep inside Earth's orbital command station. The massive space facility orbited high above the planet, its rotating sections providing artificial gravity, while housing humanity's most sensitive intelligence operations. Outside the reinforced windows, Earth turned slowly below, a blue marble that seemed so peaceful compared to the storm of information flowing through the station's quantum processors. For 6 months, Minho had been part of the Cultural Exchange Program, tasked with monitoring Federation communications to better understand their new alien allies. The work seemed routine, translating diplomatic messages, analyzing trade proposals, and cataloging the technical specifications of various alien technologies. His Korean language skills had proven surprisingly useful, as many Federation species found human linguistic patterns fascinating. But tonight felt different. His automated scanning programs had flagged several encrypted transmissions using a cipher he'd never seen before. The messages bounced between Federation vessels stationed throughout human space, using quantum relays that made them nearly impossible to trace. Something about their frequency patterns made his instincts scream danger. "Computer, begin decryption protocol Gamma 7, Minho whispered, not wanting to alert the night shift supervisors to his discovery. The artificial intelligence worked. For 3 hours, slowly peeling back layers of alien encryption. Minho brought himself cup after cup of coffee, his hands growing steadier with each breakthrough. Finally, the first message materialized on his screen in perfect Korean translation. Subject species human demonstrates remarkable adaptability. In combat scenarios observed during training exercises, individual specimens show unexpected tactical innovation when placed under stress. Emotional volatility patterns suggest psychological warfare applications. Recommend continued observation before implementing elimination protocol as per standard procedure. 8:47. Minho's coffee cup slipped from his fingers, shattering against the floor. The brown liquid spread across the metal grating as he stared at the words that seemed to burn themselves into his vision. Elimination protocol. They weren't allies, they were exterminators studying their prey. His fingers flew across the keyboard, decrypting message after message. Each one revealed more horrifying details. The Federation had been analyzing human military responses, cataloging emotional triggers, and mapping psychological weaknesses. They had extensive files on human reproduction rates, industrial capacity, and planetary defenses. Combat analysis indicates human warriors possess unusual persistence despite physical limitations. Pain tolerance exceeds predicted parameters by 340%. Recommend harvesting genetic samples before termination for potential military applications. Another message made his stomach lurch. Cultural infiltration proceeding as planned. Human leadership continues to believe in Federation friendship. Suggest maintaining deception for additional 18 months before activation of cleansing fleet. Minho. Scrolled through files dating back 3 years, before humanity had even made contact. The Federation had been watching Earth, studying human behavior through intercepted broadcasts and deep space reconnaissance. They had profiles on every major world leader, detailed maps of every military installation, and psychological analyses of human response patterns to various threats. But the worst discovery came in a file labeled Historical Precedents. 17. Other species had received the same welcome into galactic society. The Kethvari from Rigel 7, a peaceful civilization of artists and philosophers. The Mordun from the Vega system, brilliant engineers who had developed clean fusion technology. The Yalix from Tauteti, explorers who had never engaged in warfare, all gone, all eliminated after being studied, catalogued, and deemed useful, but ultimately expendable. Each subject species provided valuable data before termination. Read. 1 clinical report. Kethvari emotional manipulation techniques now standard in Federation psychological warfare doctrine. Modern engineering principles incorporated into fleet design. Yalix navigation methods improve patrol efficiency by 67%. Minho's hands shook as he realized the truth. Humanity wasn't joining a galactic community. They were being prepared for harvest. Every technology transfer, every cultural exchange, every friendly gesture was designed to make humans more compliant, while the Federation learned everything they needed to know about destroying Earth. He immediately encrypted his findings and sent an urgent message to Director Haye-Jin, his supervisor, in the Intelligence Division. She had been the only one expressing doubts about the Federation's generous offers, questioning why such advanced civilizations would freely share technology with a species they'd barely met. 20 minutes later, Haye-Jin arrived at his workstation. Her usually calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled tension. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing, and Minho had learned to trust her instincts completely. "Show me everything," she whispered, settling into the chair beside him. For the next hour, they reviewed the decrypted files together. Haye-Jin's face grew paler with each revelation, but her voice remained steady as she asked probing questions about encryption methods, transmission sources, and timeline estimates. "We need to act carefully," she finally whispered, glancing around to ensure they weren't being overheard. "If they know we've discovered their plan, they'll accelerate the timeline. The cleansing fleet could arrive in months instead of years." "What do you suggest?" Minho asked, fighting to keep his voice from cracking under the weight of what they'd learned. Haye-Jin was quiet for a long moment, staring at the images of destroyed civilizations on Minho's screen. When she looked up, her expression carried a determination that reminded him why she'd survived 20 years in intelligence work. "We do what humans do best," she said, with a grim smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We survive. But first, we need to gather every piece of information about Federation psychology, their fears, their weaknesses. If they've been studying us, it's time we returned the favor." The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, and the first battle would be fought not with weapons, but with minds. Commander Jun-Sik stood in the abandoned subway tunnel, 50 meters beneath Seoul's bustling streets, watching as construction robots finished installing the last of their hidden communication arrays. The old metro line had been closed for decades, its tunnels forgotten by the city above, while providing the perfect cover for humanity's most desperate operation. The bunker itself was a masterpiece of concealment. Reinforced concrete walls lined with signal-dampening materials, quantum processors cooled by underground water streams, and enough supplies to sustain a small team for months. Emergency exits led through maintenance tunnels that connected to the city's vast underground network, ensuring they could vanish without a trace if discovered. Jun-Sik had handpicked each member of his team based on their unique skills and absolute loyalty to humanity's survival. He'd served with most of them during the border wars, back when humanity's greatest enemies were other humans. Now they faced something far more dangerous. Dr. Yun-Ji arrived first, her arms loaded with data tablets, containing months of psychological research. She was brilliant but haunted, having lost her entire research team when a Federation cultural exchange ship had suffered a mysterious accident that killed all human passengers while leaving the alien crew unharmed. The official report blamed human error, but Yunji knew better. "Commander," she nodded, setting down her equipment, "I've completed my analysis of Federation behavioral patterns. The results are disturbing." Lieutenant Dong-hyun emerged from the bunker's communication center, his multiple computer screens still glowing with intercepted alien transmissions. He was young, but possessed an almost supernatural ability to understand information networks. During the Martian colony crisis, he'd single-handedly prevented a corporate war by exposing fake news campaigns. Agent Yujin appeared last, seemingly materializing from the shadows like a ghost. She was the most dangerous person Junsik had ever met, capable of becoming anyone, speaking any language, and disappearing into any society. Her Federation identity papers were so perfect that even she sometimes forgot they were fake. "We're not going to fight them with guns," Junsik explained as they gathered around the central planning table. Holographic displays showed Federation fleet positions, communication networks, and psychological profiles of key alien leaders. "Conventional warfare is suicide. They have thousands of ships, weapons that can crack planets, and centuries of experience eliminating species like us." He gestured to the displays showing the 17 extinct civilizations. "But every species they have destroyed fought them the same way, with honor, with courage, with desperate last stands. All noble, all dead." Dr. Yunji activated her research. Files and three-dimensional models of alien anatomy appeared above the table. The Federation species share common psychological vulnerabilities that we can exploit. The Velthrani, for instance, evolved from hive-minded insects. Their greatest fear is losing control of their perfectly ordered society. The holographic Velthrani figure pulsed with red indicators marking stress points. They obsess over hierarchy and precision. Any suggestion that their subordinates are acting independently sends them into panic. They'll sacrifice entire fleets to maintain the illusion of perfect control. "The Zephyrians are even more interesting," she continued, switching to a different alien model. "They evolved from prey animals on a world full of predators. Paranoia kept their ancestors alive, but now it rules their entire civilization. They see betrayal everywhere, even among their closest allies." The Zephyrian model showed neural pathways highlighting their hyperactive fear responses. A single suspicious message can turn entire Zephyrian fleets against each other. They've fought 3 civil wars in the past century, all triggered by imaginary conspiracies. Lieutenant Dong-hyun leaned forward, studying the data. "What about the Chromach? They seem like the most dangerous. Those stone-bodied warriors command most Federation military operations." "The Chromach value honor above life itself," Dr. Yunji replied, bringing up their psychological profile. "But that honor is fragile. They constantly question whether their allies are worthy of respect. Any hint of cowardice or dishonor makes them withdraw their support entirely." "Perfect," Junsik nodded, his mind already forming the outline of their campaign. "We plant seeds of doubt, small whispers. Let their own minds do the rest. The Federation's strength is their unity, so we shatter it from within." Agent Yujin studied the Federation communication networks displayed on Dong-hyun's screens. "I can infiltrate Lunar Station. The Federation runs their local communication hub from there, routing messages between Earth and their deep space fleets. With access to their systems, I can insert our whispers directly into their information stream." "How long do you need?" Junsik asked. 2 weeks to establish my cover identity. Another week to gain access to the communication arrays. Once I'm inside, I can plant messages that look like they're coming from legitimate Federation sources." Lieutenant Dong-hyun was already crafting their first psychological weapon. "I'll create intelligence reports that sound believable, but plant exactly the right fears. For the Velthrani, messages suggesting their subordinates are planning independent actions. For the Zephyrians, hints that their allies are secretly plotting against them." His fingers danced across holographic keyboards, generating false but convincing data. "The key is making each species think the others are behaving exactly as their psychological profiles predict they would if they were planning treachery." Dr. Yunji reviewed the fabricated reports, checking them against her psychological models. These are good. The Velthrani will interpret this data as proof that order is breaking down. The Zephyrians will see confirmation that their paranoia was justified all along. 3 weeks later, Agent Yujin stood in the gleaming corridors of Luna Station, her forged credentials identifying her as a Federation cultural liaison. The massive space station orbited Earth's moon, its crystalline spires housing thousands of alien personnel who managed the Federation's operations in human space. She had spent days building relationships with alien staff members, learning their routines and gaining their trust. Tonight, during the night shift when security was lightest, she would plant their first whisper. The communication center hummed with the activity of quantum processors routing messages across the galaxy. Yujin approached the main terminal, her stolen access codes granting her entry to the system that connected Federation fleets throughout the sector. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, inserting a single message into the data stream flowing between two Velthrani command ships. The message appeared to come from a junior Velthrani officer, reporting unusual behavior among Zephyrian allies, secret meetings, encrypted communications, and suspicious fleet movements. The message was only 3 lines long. It contained no direct accusations, no obvious lies, but it was designed to trigger the exact psychological response that Dr. Yunji had predicted. Within hours, the whisper would reach Velthrani command. Within days, it would be analyzed, discussed, and acted upon. And once the first seed of doubt was planted, human psychology suggested it would grow on its own. The war for humanity's survival had begun with a whisper sent between 2 alien ships, carrying a message that would echo across the stars. The underground command center beneath Seoul buzzed with activity as holographic displays showed the galaxy-wide chaos unfolding in real time. Jun-6 stood before the main tactical screen, watching red warning indicators bloom across Federation territory, like an infection spreading through a body. Each blinking light represented another crack in the alien alliance that had seemed unbreakable just months before. "Sir, we're receiving confirmation from Agent Yujin on Luna Station," Lieutenant Dong-hyun called out from his communication console. "The Velthrani High Command just issued emergency recall orders to their entire Third Fleet. They're abandoning the Kepler defense grid completely." Dr. Yunji looked up from her psychological analysis station, her eyes bright with the satisfaction of a theory proven correct. The fabricated intelligence reports are working exactly as predicted. The Velthrani believe the Zephyrians are positioning for a coordinated strike against their homeworlds. On the massive display, they watched as sleek Velthrani dreadnoughts broke formation and began their retreat toward the galactic core. The ships moved with desperate urgency, their crystalline hulls pulsing with energy as they charged their faster-than-light drives. These were the same vessels that had been preparing to glass human colonies just weeks ago. "Look at this." Dong-hyun manipulated the display to show another sector. "The Zephyrian swarm fleets are pulling back too. They think the Velthrani retreat is a trick to lure them out of position." The Zephyrian ships moved like angry hornets, their biomechanical hulls writhing as living weapon systems prepared for battles that would never come. Their paranoia had reached such levels that they were abandoning strategic positions to protect against imaginary threats. Agent Yujin's encrypted message appeared on Jun-6's personal screen, transmitted through quantum channels that not even Federation technology could detect. Her report made him smile for the first time in months. "Federation Central Command is in chaos," he read aloud to his team. 3 separate species delegations stormed out of yesterday's strategy meeting. The Chromac ambassador challenged the Velthrani representative to ritual combat over implications of cowardice. The Zephyrians are demanding private security sweeps of all Federation facilities. But the most beautiful part was watching their psychological warfare cascade through the alien command structure. Each suspicious message they'd planted had generated dozens of genuine responses as Federation species began investigating each other. The aliens were now creating their own conspiracy, theories each more paranoid than the last. "Sir, you need to see this," Dr. Yunji called excitedly. She'd been monitoring intercepted Federation communications all morning. The Chromac War Council just voted to suspend military cooperation with the Velthrani. They believe the crystal skins are dishonoring the warrior's code by engaging in scheming and deception. The irony was perfect. The Chromac were accusing their allies of the exact behavior that humanity was actually engaging in, but their honor-obsessed culture couldn't see past their own rigid beliefs. Captain So Young's voice crackled through the communication system. From her flagship in Earth orbit. "Command, this is incredible. I'm watching the most powerful alien fleet in the sector just leaving. The Velthrani battle group that was positioning to strike our Mars colonies is withdrawing to their home territory." Through her ship's sensors, they could see the massive alien vessels accelerating away from human space. Each Velthrani dreadnought was 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could crack continents. But now they fled like frightened children, convinced that their oldest allies were preparing to stab them in the back. "The psychological cascade is accelerating beyond our projections," Dr. Eunji reported, pulling up new data streams. "We planted maybe 50 false messages over 3 months, but the aliens have now generated over 3,000 suspicious communications investigating each other. They're doing our work for us." Lieutenant Dong-hyun highlighted another section of the galaxy map. "Look at the outer rim sectors. The Zephyrians and Chromac were supposed to conduct joint training exercises this week. Instead, both species are building defensive fortifications and positioning their fleets for mutual protection. The joint exercises had been a cover for practicing planetary invasion techniques, specifically targeting worlds like Earth. Now, instead of learning how to destroy human colonies, the alien species were preparing to fight each other over threats that existed only in their own minds." Agent Eugene next report arrived with video footage she'd secretly recorded on Lunar Station. The Federation Command Center was in absolute chaos. Velthrani officers argued with Zephyrian commanders, while Chromac warriors stood apart, their stone faces showing disgust at their allies' behavior. "Emergency session called for tomorrow." Eugene's message continued. "Federation Council is demanding explanations for coordinated espionage activities between member species. Each species is now convinced the others are spying on them." Junsik watched the galaxy map update in real time as more Federation fleets abandoned their positions. The carefully coordinated military structure that had threatened humanity was collapsing into isolated groups of suspicious allies. "Sir, we have reports from deep space monitors," Captain So Young transmitted. "Zephyrian patrol ships just opened fire on a Chromac transport convoy. The Chromac are calling it an unprovoked attack. The Zephyrians claim they were defending against aggressive positioning. The first shots of an inter-Federation conflict had been fired, and neither side understood they were fighting shadows created by human whispers." Dr. Eunji stood before the tactical display, watching decades of alien cooperation crumble in real time. The Federation was built on the foundation that superior species naturally cooperate to manage inferior ones. They never developed protocols for handling mutual suspicion because they never thought it could happen. "How long before complete breakdown?" Junsik asked. "At this rate, maybe 6 months before open warfare between major Federation species. Maybe less if we keep feeding their paranoia." Lieutenant Dong-hyun was already crafting the next wave of false intelligence, each message designed to push specific psychological buttons. "I'm preparing reports suggesting the recent accidents were actually assassination attempts. Each species will think the others are trying to eliminate their leadership." The Whisper campaign had become a symphony of destruction, each note perfectly tuned to alien fears. And the most beautiful part was that humanity never fired a single shot. Ambassador Jin Woo walked through the same crystal corridors of the Federation Council chamber, but everything had changed. Where once dozens of alien species had gathered, in unified purpose, now only half the seats remained occupied. The towering crystal spires that had once pulsed with confident blue light now flickered with unstable amber energy, reflecting the uncertainty that gripped the Galactic Alliance. The Velthrani delegates huddled together in their section, their silver skin no longer shimmering with health, but dulled by stress and sleepless cycles. Across the chamber, the few Remaining Zephyrian representatives kept their compound eyes constantly moving, scanning for threats that existed only in their paranoid minds. The Chromac warriors stood alone, having severed ties with most other species over perceived slights to their honor. Council Prime Velthar rose to address the assembly, but his movements lacked the graceful confidence Jinwu remembered from their first meeting. The alien leader's voice, once booming with authority through the translation matrix, now carried the tremor of desperation. "Honored representatives," Velthar began, his words translated into a dozen languages for the scattered delegates. "The Federation faces unprecedented challenges. Recent conflicts between member species have destabilized our unity." Jinwu watched from the human delegation's platform as alien ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. 3 separate wars had erupted between Federation species in the past 6 months. The Zephyrian Chromac border war had claimed 12 star systems. The Velthrani civil conflict had split their empire in half. Smaller species were choosing sides or declaring neutrality, fracturing the Galactic Alliance into suspicious fragments. The Federation, Velthar paused, the admission clearly painful, requests Earth's mediation in our current disputes. The words hung in the air like a confession of failure. The same species that had planned humanity's elimination now begged, for human intervention in conflicts they couldn't understand were entirely of their own making. Admiral Te-Ho stepped forward, his Earth Defense Force uniform crisp and confident. Behind him stood the new generation of human leaders, officers who had cut their teeth on the Whisper campaign and emerged as masters of galactic politics. "Of course," Te-Ho replied with diplomatic grace, "humanity values peace above all else. We would be honored to help our galactic neighbors resolve their differences." The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the human delegation. These same aliens had files detailing humanity's weaknesses, plans for Earth's conquest, and studies on how to harvest human genetic material. Now they begged the very species they'd intended to destroy for salvation from their own paranoia. In Phi, the observation galleries above the council chamber, Director Heejin watched the proceedings with Minho beside her. Both intelligence officers wore the satisfied expressions of chess masters, watching their opponent's king fall into checkmate. "Look at them," Hyojin whispered, gesturing toward the arguing alien delegates below. "The Zephyrians are convinced the Velthrani sabotaged their supply convoys. The Chromac believe both species are plotting against their honor. None of them realize they're fighting shadows we created." Minho pulled up his tablet, showing the latest intelligence reports. The psychological warfare exceeded every projection. "We planted 50 false messages over 12 months. The aliens have generated over 8,000 suspicious communications investigating each other. They're trapped in a cycle of mutual paranoia that feeds on itself." Below them, a Zephyrian ambassador was gesticulating wildly at a Velthrani delegate, their translator struggling to keep up with the rapid-fire accusations. "Your species has been intercepting our quantum communications. Our security systems detected Velthrani signature patterns in our classified networks." The Velthrani delegate's skin shifted to angry red patterns. "Preposterous. We would never stoop to such primitive espionage methods. Clearly, you are projecting your own guilty behavior onto us." Heejin smiled as she watched the exchange. "They wanted to study us to learn how to destroy us. Instead, they taught us exactly how to control them. Every psychological profile they created of humanity became a weapon we turned against them." "Captain," So Young's voice crackled through their communication implants from her flagship orbiting Earth. "Command, I'm receiving formal requests from 3 different Federation species. They're offering us territorial concessions in exchange for protection services against their former allies." The captain's ship, the UES Harmony, now led a fleet of vessels incorporating the best of human engineering with alien technology freely shared by desperate governments. Where once Federation species had forbidden humans from establishing colonies, now they competed to offer the most attractive worlds to secure human favor. "The Kepler system is officially ours now," So Young continued. "The same worlds the Federation tried to trick us into taking from peaceful natives. Now they're giving us uninhabited systems as gifts, plus mining rights to asteroid belts that were previously off-limits to human expansion. In his secure office beneath Seoul, Commander Jun-sik was writing his final report on Operation Whisper, the underground bunker that had once hidden humanity's desperate resistance now served as the headquarters for Earth's new Galactic Mediation Service. Mission accomplished, he typed on his encrypted terminal. Humanity didn't conquer the galaxy through superior firepower or advanced technology. We conquered it by understanding that fear is the most powerful weapon in the universe, and humans have always been the best at surviving what frightens us most. He paused, considering the implications of what they'd achieved. The Federation. Species had spent centuries perfecting the art of studying and eliminating younger civilizations. They had refined their techniques through 17 successful extinctions, each one teaching them new ways to exploit the weaknesses of emerging species. But they had made one critical mistake. They had assumed humanity would react like their previous victims, with honor, courage, and ultimately failure. Instead, humanity had done what it did best: adapted, learned, and turned the hunters into prey. Agent Eugene entered his office, having finally returned from her year-long undercover mission on Lunar Station. "Sir, the Federation command structure is completely compromised. They're requesting human advisors to help investigate security breaches in their own communication networks." "The same networks we've been infiltrating for months," Jun-sik replied with grim satisfaction. "Exactly. They're so paranoid about each other that they trust us more than their own allies. We've become the neutral party they all confide in, not realizing we're the ones feeding their suspicions." Dr. Yunji's voice came through the intercom from her research lab. "Commander, my psychological analysis suggests the Federation will never recover from this breakdown. The trust between species has been so thoroughly shattered that even if they discovered our involvement, they wouldn't be able to cooperate long enough to retaliate." As Jinwoo concluded the formal mediation ceremonies on the Federation Council Station, he reflected on humanity's journey from prey to predator. The galaxy had learned a simple truth. When you betray humanity, you don't face their anger, you face their ingenuity. Earth's children now walked among the stars not as conquerors with vast fleets, but as the species others feared to cross. The whisper that had begun in the dark corridors of Lunar Station had become a roar that echoed across every world. Humanity would not be underestimated again. The Federation's plan to study and eliminate humanity had backfired spectacularly. Instead of learning how to destroy humans, they had taught humanity exactly how to control the galaxy, through fear, paranoia, and the simple understanding that sometimes the greatest victory comes not from fighting your enemies, but from letting them destroy themselves. The Endi,